art of wrestling with professional wrestler
Come on in,
Colt
sit
Cabana.
down, relax. You're about to listen to the Art of Wrestling, a professional wrestling podcast. The Life Podcast is personal journalists' entryway into the minds and souls, the hearts and lives of the people involved in the world of professional wrestling. I am your host. My name is Colt Cabana. I am a podcaster. I am a border crosser. I did sleep on Space Monkey's couch. I am a photographer for C4 up in Ottawa. Most importantly, though, I am a professional wrestler, and I am sitting here live in my studio apartment in Chicago, Illinois. Before we go any further, this is fan support and listener support, a podcast supported by people just like you. Give it to you free of charge every single Thursday. ColtCabana.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcasts from. A couple great ways that you can support. Rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. Tell a friend. Facebook it out. Tweet it out. Or, of course, ColtMerch.com, DigitalColt.com. Honestly, go there. Grab a t-shirt, grab a micro brawler, grab a DVD, grab one of my Wrestling Road Diaries, grab something fun, give it to a friend, give it to a small child. My book is coming out very soon. It's a children's book. You're gonna love it. I'm super excited, but that's not now, but other stuff is there. ColtMerch.com, DigitalColt.com, and Todd Sinclair is on the show this week, and I'm super excited to have Todd on. Todd, for those of you who don't know, maybe you've only seen that face and you go, that's a familiar face, but I don't know that fucking guy's name. Maybe some of you guys only know the name and have never seen the face. This is senior official, Ring of Honor senior official Todd Sinclair, a guy who I've been traveling with for years now, 4 years. And it's not often that I have somebody who isn't a specific wrestler on the show. And when I do, it usually means that they're good at their job, or they're good friends with me. And both is the scenario today. So glad to have Todd on. And it's fun to get into the psyche of a referee, because probably as wrestlers, I say probably, a little bit of me says no, but the reality is probably wrestlers, we're all kind of egomaniacs. We want to be this big star. We want to have the light shined on us. We want to perform for everybody. And then there's a referee in there, which is kind of a weird job for what professional wrestling really is, right? Wink, nudge. Yeah, when you break it down, it's when you really, really break it down, it's kind of fun to think about what a referee is. And as we're having non-actual wrestlers on the show, Todd is on the show, I guess I'd like to send my thoughts and prayers to the family of Lance Russell. I did not know Lance Russell, but I could always appreciate Lance Russell. And of course, I say thoughts and prayers kind of tongue-in-cheek because of all, right, the bullshit. Like, how many times can we say thoughts and prayers? Because obviously this is coming off the back of the Las Vegas shooting, and thoughts and prayers that's just people typing thoughts and prayers. And this isn't new. This isn't even my meme that I put on the internet. But I couldn't agree more. And last week I said I didn't want to make a political show, but there's so much stuff going on in the world that sometimes you just got to say something. And this week with the Vegas shooting, it's like, how many more of these happen before something actually gets done? But it doesn't. It doesn't. And this isn't my platform to say anything about it or do anything about it. But we just throw out those thoughts and prayers, and then we don't. Nothing happens. It's really sad. And that all stemmed from Lance Russell condolences. Because I love that idea of studio wrestling, of Lance Russell really being the ultimate straight man. And that's why I love Todd as a referee, because I think after all these years, like, we trust Todd Sinclair, the Ring of Honor fans or the wrestling fans, because even if you're not a Ring of Honor fan, I know you've seen those matches with, Daniel Bryanson and Nigel McGuinness. I know I always said his name. That's just how it comes out now, right? I know you've seen the matches, Punk and Aries and Joe, and hopefully you've seen some of my matches on there, and he's the guy. So he's built up so much trust that he's a respected member of the Ring of Honor show, and that's how Lance Russell was. And when I think of like nostalgic wrestling, not nostalgic, but in my head as a kid, thinking about what I thought of professional wrestling, my thoughts were obviously Big Bad Hulk Hogan. And then I saw VHS tapes of like the yesteryear, and you're wondering like, well, what was wrestling before this? And in my head, it was guys like Lance Russell talking about Memphis professional wrestling. That sounded kind of Gordon Sully, but you understand the idea. Which is funny now that kids are watching wrestling now, and they're like, what was wrestling back in the day? And then someone's like, oh, it was crazy. I'm going to show you this old YouTube clip of the Hardys versus the Dudley Boys jumping off ladders. Like, that's what their nostalgic will be. And maybe that's the fun of growing up as a wrestling fan and generations and generations. Listen, I said I had a platform, and I do, and I'm lucky enough to have one. And hopefully there's some Ring of Honor fans listening, because October 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th, Ring of Honor is coming to Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Columbus, and Chicago, and I'm doing commentary on all those shows. And some of the New Japan wrestlers are coming over. Listen, you've seen my documentary, The Wrestling Road Diaries 3 Funny Equals Money, and I let it be known how much I love creative, funny, good professional wrestling. Kikutaro and Grado are two of my favorites. I made a documentary based off of them. And October 15th, there's a pay-per-view in Chicago for Ring of Honor. And the reality is that I get what I am, I guess. I don't know. I've become a commentator for Ring of Honor. I really enjoy it. I think Ian Riccoboni is very talented, and I really can't wait to see where we go as a team 2-3 years or whatever it might be, seeing how our chemistry really comes together. But Toru Yano of New Japan is, luckily I've been able to watch a lot of New Japan. A lot of the New Japan guys have been coming over here. New Japan is becoming a thing in America, and Yano is getting the attention of a lot of people. And the reality is I'm going to be in Chicago. There's going to be a pay-per-view, and Yano's going to be there. And just like I did on here, and this didn't work at all, when I was on Chicago PD, and I said, hey, throw a tweet out there and let Chicago PD know that Colt's a thing. You like seeing Colt. Maybe they'll throw me on some more shows. Maybe throw a tweet out there to Ring of Honor and say, hey, Yano and Cabana would be a good one in Chicago on pay-per-view. It's not like I'm not wrestling. I wrestled Dalton Castle on TV. So who knows? Enough buzz. Maybe that'll get some attention, and they'll think to themselves, oh, yeah, we should probably make that a match. Because that's obvious. It's an obvious match, I'd like to think. But, maybe with a little support, we'll make that a match, get it on pay-per-view. And to that, I say thank you. And I also say thank you to Canada for having me out this past weekend. 4 shows, 3 days. That's how I like to do it, like a real journeyman. Here's a quick breakdown. Montreal, I wrestled against the Aces and Eights Quebec chapter. Didn't know Aces and Eights was still out there. Didn't know they had a Quebec chapter, but they do. And I came out victorious. Also saw Beef Wellington. Beef and I had like a match that did pretty well on like the original YouTube in 2005. Good to see Beef. Went to Ottawa, C4 Wrestling. Are you guys sleeping on C4 Wrestling? Wow. If you're in Ottawa, go to C4 Wrestling. I know you did, you came, but I was there in 2011, and it was pretty great then, but the promoter, Mark, was like, no, that was our best show. We weren't that great. And I was like, oh, and now it's a thing. It's a thing you do on a Saturday night in Ottawa, Canada, and that's how wrestling should be. And there's such a hodgepodge of people, which is my love of wrestling. The best thing I love about wrestling is it can't get gentrified, I don't think. And I say this now, in 10 years it might be fucked, because I'm living in a neighborhood while I was living here has completely got gentrified. But there's always going to be the wrestling fans. And there were some, hipsters and college kids or whatever it was that were there, but there's always going to be the wrestling fans, and they'll always be there. So no matter what, even if it's like trying to get gentrified, it'll still only be half, and there's still going to be those amazing wrestling fans, and then these amazing people who are just here to drink cheap beer on a Saturday night with their friends and just love what's going on, which is the best, as you should, as wrestling should be. I am not knocking that. After the show in Ottawa, drove 6 hours back for a 2 p.m. show where we had to be there at 11. I didn't get much sleep, but thanks to the Space Monkey for letting me sleep on his space couch. And there was an incident in Oshawa. Oshawa is where it was at. And I don't have time to go into it, but I had such a great time. They're so nice meeting everybody. And here's the reality of it. And I've seen this complaint, and it's not you guys, because obviously you like me. I think the people who are making this complaint don't like me, so they don't listen to this show. But I've heard, and this is a quote, if you're not spending money at Colt's table, he doesn't have any time for you. And that, it couldn't be the fucking furthest from the truth. And I'm always like, who the fuck is saying these things? Because to me, I really don't care. I have my stuff out there. If you want to buy stuff, great. That if you're a person who's like, fuck, Colt does this stuff, I want to support him, I'm going to buy stuff, great. But the idea that you came to the show is the support that we need as a community. That's all it is. And I'm just, I've heard this before, and I'm just like, who is saying this kind of shit? And then this guy sent a message to Alpha One Promoter, who was my boss for that day, and was like, Colt was such a disappointing experience, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, I was so nice to everyone. And then he said that I gave him grief for illegally downloading my movie, for pirating my movie. And then it kind of all hit me. These people who say these kind of things is because, yes, there's a couple of ways when I tune out as a wrestler at the merch table or at a show. I will always be nice to anyone who comes to a show. Why wouldn't I be? You got to understand, I'm an independent wrestler. I don't get weekly checks from anybody, so I could just act however I want to act. No, like every time I get paid is because I'm at this show. It's direct. It's hand to mouth. It's pounding the pavement. That's what it is. But I do tune out when people tell me that they illegally stole my movie, and I get pirating. Listen, I haven't been the greatest guy of all time, but don't fucking tell me to my face that you stole from me. The other one is when you ask me about a person I don't want to be asked about. I don't know, you could figure that one out. But I'm never going to be like, fuck you, leave me alone. I'm just going to kind of tune out. And this one, I was just sad, and I told him that I'm kind of disappointed. And I also said, like, I get it. I get stealing on the internet. That's a thing. But just, why'd you tell me that, man? It really bummed me out. I said it really bummed me out. And then I also get the idea that no one wants to be wrong, right? So in his head, he was like, well, Colt's a piece of shit. I'm going to go tell the world in the internet now because no one wants to admit fault or guilt. And not no one, but these people in this case, in this scenario. And that's why, I get these negative Yelp reviews on the internet, and it makes me sad. But I do have something in my mind where I said, if I ever start getting into it with someone that makes me sad, I will then start dealing with people that make me happy. And so for every tweet telling some fucker to fuck off, I will then, tweet at somebody who compliments somebody or whatever it might be. And that was the case. I went to Greektown Wrestling right after that. I wrestled Jock Sampson, who is a parody of himself. Pretty hilarious. And I look forward to going back to Canada eventually. Of course I'll be there. All right, we got a song of the week. And the song of the week is brought to you by Harry's. It's the same Harry's who've been with the show for years now. You need razors. You just do. And I hate that I have to buy them. I hate that I have to buy anything. I also hate that I used to have to go to the store and drop big money to buy them. But now we don't have to do that. Jeff and Andy, they went to Germany. They bought a factory. And now economics. It's kicked in. There is no middleman. There is no middle store. It's just direct to consumers, which means $2 a blade instead of $4 or even more. I'm using Harry's on the road. I use it at home. And a little tip for you, I'm using it in the shower. And it's working. Harry's is so confident that you'll love their blades. They're giving you their trial set for free. Just pay the shipping. You get a weighted ergonomic razor handle, 5 precision engineered blades with lubricating strip and trimmer blade, rich lathering shave gel, and a blade cover. $13 value for free. Harrys.com/wrestling. HARRYS.com/wrestling. Gets you the blades, the gel, the handle, and the cover for free. Just spot the shipping. Harrys.com/wrestling. All right, the song of the week was brought to me by Cactus, and it's by his band Plan 37. And that's right, they're out of Toronto, Canada, right where I was. Grab this song and their others at myfingersmybrainsrecords.bandcamp.com. This is from the album Say Goodbye. It's Shockmaster. Enjoy it. We'll be back with Todd Sinclair.
Now know what I was thinking when they called me up to ask me if I wanted to step back into the light. I must have been of a crazy excitement, so I said yes without a question in 2020. Visions in hindsight, knocked down, unmasked, chased with
This is way before I thought I would be on.
Well, we're closing up the show soon, so
No.
But yeah.
Oh, come on.
You before, as we were doing our volume checks, you introduced yourself as Fat Pants,
I did.
which is a nickname that nobody wants to have as a nickname.
No, not in any like form. But why would anybody want to be called fat?
Yeah.
But I gave the name to myself.
You gave it to yourself.
I did.
When you were 3?
No, I was probably, let's say I was 20, maybe 20. I'm very lazy, and it's just my style.
And for those of you at home, I'm actually holding up the microphone for him.
Yes.
He's
Yes. There was no way I was holding this microphone for the next
hour. I didn't have
hour.
a stand, so it's very weird me holding 2 microphones. One
Right.
to me, one to him. But
Right. So
I'm fine with it.
Right. So I'm lazy. I don't want to put effort into just about anything. So when I was 20, let's say this was mid 90s, early 90s, I used to wear those Zubaz pants, those,
Which are back in fashion. Well, I won't even say back in fashion. Which some people think are back in fashion.
The boys basically
aren't back in fashion.
Right. So I used
Glad that I don't see you wearing those around. Though.
And I never thought they were in fashion. It wasn't because I didn't wear them to say, oh, I'm going to look great at Hampton Beach in New Hampshire just because I'm wearing these. No, I wore them because I was lazy. I didn't want to put any effort into throwing on like what am I going to choose to wear today?
Yeah.
These were easy. They were loose because I don't like to be constricted. And so I used to wear them. So I've always been
before
heavy.
wrestling?
This is before wrestling,
Okay.
yeah. So I've always been heavy, but myself and my brother and our friends, we used to play this game, Fire Pro Wrestling, which a lot of guys probably know. There's actually a new version out on the Sega Genesis. So we're creating our characters. And
Now, hold on. I'm going to stop you.
Okay.
I thought Fire Pro Wrestling you could only get from Japan.
Back then, you actually had to convert your Genesis to play Japan games. So
Right.
That's what I did. Yeah.
Okay. You got this from Japan somehow.
Right.
This wasn't just at Babbage's, right?
No, right. Babbage's, right. No, this was, I actually bought a Genesis, sent it away to some dude that I found on the internet that converted my Genesis to play Japanese games.
And let it be said that you're an early adopter of the internet, so you know how to do this.
Right,
stuff.
yes. I'm early adopter where I used to browse the internet on Just Text at college.
Really? And
Yeah.
Just Text?
Yeah, it was.
Which isn't like, it's not google.com and justtext.com.
No. This was just, you didn't get the pictures. It would tell you if, like, basically you would just be reading. It was kind of like those Usenet forums back then too. But yeah.
We'll jump into that. But, okay, so
Yep.
but you were playing Fire Pro?
So for playing Fire Pro, and we're creating our characters just so we can play this game, so we can have battle royals in this game. And my brother used to make fun of my pants. So I go, well, I'm gonna name my character after these pants. So I'm gonna call them my Fat Pants. And my character in Fire Pro became Fat Pants, and there was the nickname. So I came up with it myself.
But okay, so within wrestling, I mean, everyone like you're known. Your name is known, especially in the Boston circles, right? Your Fat Pants. What's the like the average Ring of Honor? Do they know you as Fat Pants? The average Ring of Honor fan.
I don't think they know that name. I mean, it is on my, as far as I know, on my Ring of Honor profile on the website.
Really?
Yeah. So like he's nicknamed as Fat Pants or whatever is in the write up. I don't know if they know that name now. They did back when I first started because it was just something I used all the time to people and. I think our crowd was more of a smaller community then than it is now. It's bigger, so it's guys aren't talking
Ring
to
of
each
Honor
other.
message board.
Right, exactly.
Everybody knew. Everybody, literally every wrestler who was, or every fan who was at the show.
Yeah,
was,
or wrestler. Every wrestlers are reading
fair
it.
enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think back then more of them knew, but now, I mean.
Well, I was going to say, like, so if somebody comes to, like, let's say they come to 30 shows within a couple of years, like, you think, like, oh, they probably would somehow find out that you're.
I think they would be deeper into the fandom than the more casual person that they would actually know that name. And the good thing is, a lot of guys actually feel bad using the fat part, so they just call me Pants, which is perfectly fine because I like the name. I'd rather be that than just Todd, you know.
You'd rather be Pants or Fat Pants?
Like to be talked in conversion. Like if you were calling me from across the room and you said Pants, I prefer that. Yeah,
You prefer that to Todd?
Yeah,
'cause
definitely.
You don't like your name.
I don't. It's not that I hate it, but I like Pants better. Yeah.
All right, and you brought that into wrestling.
Yeah.
You weren't afraid to be like one of these guys who goes from one scenario where they're nicknamed one thing into a different world where they're nobody, but like, hey, this is my nickname.
Right.
Let's start calling me that.
Yeah. This is who I am. This is and I actually will go outside of wrestling. I worked in the software industry. I used to work at a software company for years and years until my job went to India, which was a lot of fun.
Oh, were you working for Global Force Wrestling?
No. But there, in the corporate world, a $1 billion company that I worked for, everybody in the building knew my name was Pants.
Okay.
And they called me Pants.
And you made sure. But the first day, I mean, how does that's what I'm wondering is like, how does that go from you call yourself that on a video game playing with your brother to making sure everybody calls you that?
I think it just started with the close-knit friends that I had, and then just turned into
within that company.
Everybody know, because I actually worked with my brother. My brother worked at the company I did, and there was so he probably spread it around from there, yeah. So, but even now, back more than 20 years later, I have nieces that call me Uncle Pants. That's my name.
Isn't there Captain Underwear? That's a thing, right?
Oh yeah, it is a thing. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, you're close to Captain Underwear.
Yeah.
Great. You have. Yeah, I like the idea of. Because it's our generation. You're a little older than me too. But I remember my brother went to Grand Valley State University, and so let's say he went there from 94 to 98.
Okay.
My brother's 40, about to turn 41.
Yeah.
And so I was 14, and I remember there was like some kind of internet there. And you tell me what timeline that would be. So that was 94, 95, and he was like, check out this internet. And like I gave myself a nickname. It was Dilsey34.
Is this AOL or?
Well, this was on the GVSU server.
Okay.
And then later when AOL came out, I kept that name from that.
Right.
And then later I changed it.
Yeah.
I got rid of Dilsey34.
Yeah.
But I remember that was some kind of internet. That was my first, like, I guess, into what the internet was.
Yeah. Mine was 92. I graduated high school in 92. So I went right to UMass Lowell for engineering. So when we got there, we all were given passwords for the VMS and VAX, I guess the system was. I don't really remember exactly. And that's where I found the Usenet forums, the Rec Sport Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, I was going to ask, so where does wrestling? So there's text with just wrestling. I guess I didn't know the Rex. Well, Rec Sports was on AOL, I felt, right?
Well, it was everywhere, I think. I mean, maybe people who know technology better than I do now.
Well, I thought you know technology.
I did, but I've lost a lot of that in my brain just because I don't use it. You know, you kind of...
I thought it was the CTE from the chair shots over the years.
That's part of it, too. But it's... So if I'm using the wrong terms, I might, somebody on the other end of this is like, oh, he doesn't know shit about technology.
Right.
But it was, so we had a VAX machine, VMS, and they gave us a login. And the first thing I did, instead of doing homework and instead of doing things I was supposed to do, I found those forums, the Usenet stuff. And like it wasn't just AOL. It was just, I think Usenet, it was a central place, and then AOL and maybe Prodigy and all these places could just point to it.
Gotcha.
So I don't think it wasn't self-contained in AOL. It was just there where everybody could grab it.
Right. And then I think that's a fun memory for everyone, because even just you saying that, especially in the wrestling world, is like the first time we figured out the first time we were somewhere where we figured out the internet, and instead of doing anything else, we just went to where can we find wrestling on the internet.
Absolutely.
And I'd say people who, I guess, that went to college, and maybe this works for people in high school too after a certain age, is instead of like I would go to the college dorm or the college computer lab and just sit on these websites. So this was 98, 99.
Right.
And it's so amazing how far it's all come in terms of accessibility of wrestling on the internet.
Oh, it's crazy.
Right?
And that even back then, the thing was, this was the first place where you could get pro wrestling isn't just this sport where guys are trying to win and lose. You would get here's the guy writing the storyline, or here's a spoiler.
Or pro wrestling isn't just a TV show I'm watching, right?
Right. It was you finally had a place where it wasn't just your circle of friends, that you could talk on the inner workings of pro wrestling, whether you knew what the hell was going on really or not. I mean, I saw 2020 when I was a kid, so I knew from there at least something was up.
Wait, but did you? So it took, like somehow was reading a PWI magazine, and I found out I must have been 13 or 14 or something, and I found out about the Torch. There was an article for the Torch.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to know the inside scoops? And I was like, God damn right. And then I got like 20 episodes. And so like that was before the internet for me.
Okay. Yeah.
So I kind of like, so was the internet the first time that like you awoke to wrestling? That you were woke?
to be able to speak about it to other people other than my brother, and
But just more, you went, this is more than just a TV show.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like there's this whole big, deeper thing about pro wrestling than just watching a guy come off the top rope and drop an elbow, and you know.
And your brother was, so you had somebody that you could share this with. Your brother liked wrestling.
Oh yeah, me and my brother Kyle just loved it.
Is he older or younger?
He's younger. I'm the oldest. I have 2 brothers and 2 stepbrothers. So, but as far as where wrestling went, it was just me and Kyle that really loved it, and it was. The second we saw it, I mean, I remember seeing it in the neighborhood. We went over a neighborhood kid's house, and wrestling was on, and that was it. That's where we found it on television, and then it was All American Wrestling's on TV, and the Saturday syndicated show from Allentown is on. Then we found World Class. Even in Boston, we had World Class, which was insane. But we would find every wrestling we could. We had the LGN figures. It was just everything we did was about pro wrestling.
And were your parents into it or no?
No, but they didn't discourage it.
Yeah. Were you in, like, was there other stuff that you were into that then just wrestling took over?
I mean, I still kept like watching hockey and baseball back then. When I was a kid, I used to watch baseball, but it was really like we would get He-Man action figures and wrestle
and
with
make
them.
them
We
wrestlers.
we wouldn't do anything else except
I'm just
wrestling.
trying to think of my other obsessions, like baseball and like probably Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or cartoons, right? But just wrestling trumped everything.
Yeah, it was for me. Just baseball cards maybe trickled in a little bit, but it was everything else was wrestling.
Did you ever have like a thing like, well, like when wrestling kind of got shitty, where you're like, you know what, I'm going to make this thing more than wrestling. Like, I'm going to decide to like this more than wrestling.
No,
I remember that happened when like I think it was the Royal Rumble where Hogan took Sid over.
Okay, yeah.
I was just like, I don't think I like this anymore.
The only time I ever kind of lost a little bit of touch with it is when I started working when I was at Dunkin' Donuts when I was 16, just because I wasn't home Saturday mornings to watch it.
I was going to say on a Monday night.
Yeah, no, this is before Raw, yeah.
Right. That took away your wrestling time.
Yeah, and it was just, I would come home. For some reason, we didn't tape it, which we should have. But we would come home and I would tell my brother, "Okay, what happened? What did they do?" You know. So I was still into it. I just was working, so I couldn't.
I found myself in a YouTube wormhole the other day, and I saw Yokozuna's debut.
Really?
And it was just like on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Like that's when they did.
Yeah, that's everything. Everything rotated about that because even just primetime wrestling was just house show stuff or recap. Everything else was Saturdays.
Yeah. And it's changed so much now.
Yeah.
Now that we're in primetime wrestling. Okay, so you get into wrestling. You said you're 20 and you're not into wrestling yet.
Yeah. Oh no! I mean, I was 20. I was into wrestling. I got into wrestling
in the wrestling industry.
Oh, into the wrestling. Yeah. No, I didn't start till I was 27.
27.
Yeah. And it was because I was terrified to try it.
I'd imagine I relate that to, I guess, kind of stand up and comedy is just like, which is weird because I was so sometimes I like, I don't know, like about going to like open mics and I feel like kind of like which I imagine so many people feel about wrestling.
Yeah.
Trying to become a wrestler.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it comes down to what you're comfortable with, because I wasn't, my fear wasn't wrestling, it was public speaking. It was being in front of a person that's just watching me. And that's why I didn't try it. Because, okay, if I'm in a wrestling ring, I'm on a stage of some kind. There's no freaking way I'm getting in front of people and doing this. Because I would go in college, we'll go back to college, I would get a syllabus in one of these courses and say, okay, at the end of the year, you have an oral presentation. I would close up my notebook and grab my bag and I would leave the room immediately and sign out and find a class that didn't have presentations because I couldn't do them. I just couldn't speak in front of people. It still terrifies me. If we were doing this on one of your live shows, I'd turn it down.
Oh, wow. I was going to ask, like, how much has that changed now looking back?
Yeah, no, it still terrifies me.
But what about and you've got on the microphone before.
I have, and I hate it.
You really?
I hate it.
Because because, you know, Well, when a referee gets in the microphone, it has to be important. It has to be important, like so important that the referee's on the microphone.
Right. Why is this happening? Yeah.
Like it's not just one of those throwaway things where these refs are on the mic the whole time.
Yeah.
And even still, like
I hate it.
Well, what about? Do you hate everything?
No. I hate being the focus. I don't want to be the focus, and I think that's why. Even back when I first started watching wrestling, I kind of gravitated to the ref because the ref wasn't the focus. The ref was there, but he was not the person that people were looking at. I would look at them and I would know that David Manning is refereeing this match, but I didn't nobody else would pay attention to the ref.
Well, what do you like about the idea of the performance that you're a part of?
That I'm part of the background until I'm needed, and then I can come to the forefront and then leave again.
But like when you're out there and you're out there for hours sometimes, right?
Yeah. I've done all the hour matches.
I just mean like if you do 6 matches on a show, like it's not just you're not out there for 20 minutes.
Right.
You're out there a long time in front of those people.
Yeah. I really do. In my brain, I don't think anyone's looking at me. I don't think anyone's paying attention.
What do you like? I want to speak for you, but I can't.
Well, I mean, what I like about
part of the performance,
being part of it, being as close as I am. It's like you hear people say, "Oh, I have the best seat in the house," but I really do. Like, I mean, I'm still a fan of pro wrestling, so when I'm in there, I have a role to play, but I'm still kind of watching it as a fan at the same time. So I can see you wrestle Punk in 2 out of 3 falls in Chicago. And I can be closer than anyone else in the building. So that the part of that is still there. And then just kind of being a part of this thing that I love more than anything else, pro wrestling, is I don't know. It's kind of deep down burned into me.
But do you consider what you do? I mean, do you sit here and say as a referee, like, do you consider yourself an artist? Do you consider yourself just a thing? Like, do you consider what you do important?
Yeah, I absolutely.
Do you think you're good at what you do?
I think I'm really good at what I do. Yeah. and I'm pretty. I'm a pretty humble person, but I think I'm really good at what I do, and I think other people appreciate how I do it, like the skill that I have in doing it. But the chance that I have to do this all the time is like I don't want to do anything else. I feel more comfortable in the ring. It's as weird as this is because of my social, stuff. I feel more comfortable in the ring than in everyday life sometimes because it's just a social anxiety type thing.
What stems on that? All the social stuff.
I think it's just shyness. I just grew up as a shy kid, and
but you're around all the siblings and stuff, right?
Yeah, but I would converse with everybody. I wouldn't keep to myself, but. And this is a food related thing, going off the fat thing. So maybe people make a little comment about it. But I would go to McDonald's my mom would take us to McDonald's, and I'd want to go get another cheeseburger, and she'd say, "Okay, here's the money, go get it." And I wouldn't go do it because it was a social interaction with someone that I didn't know, like a stranger.
Yeah,
and it would terrify me enough where I would say, "Oh no, I won't eat it. I don't care."
That's wild because I have my own social anxieties, but. Not to that extent, and it's weird to like look back and be like, so if I put myself in that situation, I would go, I'd go I'll go up there, and it's weird what makes someone think one thing, and somebody think the other.
I don't know what it is,
especially a man who loves food.
Yeah, right. But it's just a feeling. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of locks you up. Like I think maybe it's not possible for me to break through that. Sometimes I try hard, and it doesn't hinder me. A lot of the time in my life, like where I can't do anything and I can't function, but there's just certain situations where it'll catch me, and then it just kind of okay. I can't do anything about this. I'm just gonna let it ride. You'll ride it out.
Right.
I don't know why.
Ride or die. You'll ride or die.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So the idea of then going to the rest. Well, I know you were going to shows and you were doing stuff and being an idiot, and that's how you got brought into wrestling, right?
I did, yeah. We were. I had friends who I had met at ECW shows. We used to go to the ECW shows up in Boston.
Who, you and your brother?
No, my brother got out of wrestling at this time. He started working and he had a girlfriend and stuff, so he's actually got out of wrestling at that point. So I was just going to it, and then
wait, hold on, by yourself?
Yeah, I'd bring a stepbrother one show.
Social anxiety?
Because I loved it so much, and
I couldn't go to a show. There's been so many shows that I would want to go to, like even now in Chicago that I just don't go to.
Yeah, no, I don't mind doing anything by myself at all. I think maybe that's no, I could get deep into that, but I don't know the reason. I have no problem because I wanted to go so much because it was ECW. I found ECW, I don't know about you. I know you loved it back then too. When I found it, it was the greatest thing in history because the wrestling we were getting from WCW and WWF sucked. It was Freddie Joe Floyd stuff and hey man, no, I'm not shooting on him. No, it was those
you
characters.
Say anybody but Tracy. Come on now,
Sal Sincere.
Hey, don't fuck up. But that's my second love is fucking Johnny Gunn.
Right, but it was like that. Those are the characters and the storylines we were getting, and it was just the shits for a guy who's 20 years old, and. It might have been good for an 11-year-old kid, but at 20, who wanted to see a little bit more gritty stuff, I wasn't getting it anywhere. So when I found ECW, they started broadcasting on the Spanish channel up by me at like 1 in the morning, and I found it from the internet. The internet was talking about this ECW, and I didn't tape trade for some reason. I don't know why I didn't. Yeah, but when I found it, now that I knew ECW was coming to town, I'd go regardless. So I would go to these shows by myself.
They didn't come to Chicago.
No.
Whereas
they came to Boston. There was a period where they were coming up to Boston like every 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And so I would go, and I wanted to get, I don't know if they sold specific seats. Like here's your third row, third seat over. They probably did, but it didn't matter to me. I went. The show was going to start at 7:30. I got there at 4:30 to sit in line at ECW. I don't know why. Maybe it was general admission, but I don't think it was. It was just to go.
Because you were excited.
I was excited
to be there.
I didn't want to sit in traffic or something. Yeah.
I get it. Like it's not the same, but like I loved wrestling so much when I started wrestling school. Like I had a choice. Like, okay, wrestling started at 7:00, and either I leave at 5 and miss, or I leave at like 4:30 and miss the traffic, or I go at like. I leave at 7 and get there for 7:30, and like I was like, I'm getting in there. I'm leaving my house at 4:30, right. So I miss, and I get there early. Yeah, I don't want to be late.
Yeah, so that was probably the reason. So, and going there and you sit in line with these people that are all about wrestling the same way I am. You just meet people. So I met friends there that we would start to go once ECW shut down. We could continue to go to local shows. So you made friends in line
at the shows.
Yeah, made a lot of friends in line. Yeah, George Carroll who works with New Japan right now is one of them.
But that's social anxiety.
I don't know what it's. I don't have an explanation.
There wasn't headphones and podcasts to just listen to and be left alone back then.
Yeah, right? No, it was just. I think maybe because it was. I knew I was around people that liked something exactly the way I did. Maybe it was that was. But yeah, I somehow we became friends, and then we would go to the shows together from there. And that turned into going to the shows and then me actually reffing on a show that I paid a ticket to.
Okay, so let's hear that story.
Okay, so this is 2001. We would go to the shows, and George Carroll actually started wrestling. I don't know how he did this because he has no athletic bones in his body at all. But he started wrestling, and we would go to these shows to see him. And this was a small show. There might have been 30 people.
Whose show?
I think it was called Big East Wrestling, maybe. Who
was on top?
I don't think anybody. I think it was just locals. I don't think they had any stars at all.
But who was their main event? You don't even know.
No.
Who was the biggest star on that show?
If I were to say, you're not going to know the name.
Maverick Wild?
Maverick Wild might have been. I remember a guy named Vertebreaker just because he was in the match I reffed later that night.
Okay.
But I don't think there's anyone of notoriety that people would know. So we went to the show, me and my friend Eric Arsenault, who we called
Real
Mucko.
Name or fake name?
That was his real name. We used to call him Mucko. That was his nickname. So we went to that show, and then George at intermission would come out. He hadn't wrestled yet. He'd come out and just talk to us because it's an indie show. That's what you do.
Were you impressed? You're like, this is a big star.
No, because I knew George. Like,
the wrestlers are talking to me.
Right? Yeah. No. So we're hanging out, and but they had known.
Did he go and get trained, George?
I think he did, but I don't know where. I don't know. I don't think he went to Kowalski's. Like Kowalski's really was the only school at that time. I think.
Sounds shady.
Yeah. I don't know. I have no idea how.
Snuck himself on a show.
Yeah. So he was wrestling, and then my friend Eric he said. Why don't you have Pants ref your match? And George said, I can do that if you want. And I said, bullshit. Like, I'm not getting in front of people in a ring to, like, I don't want to do that. I'm scared shitless. And they somehow talked me into it. So I paid for the ticket.
Were you an obnoxious fan? I think I heard you were.
Yeah, we were obnoxious. Like, we would bring signs that would, like, rag on guys and stuff, yeah.
So how do you, but that's in front of people.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I have no explanation on. I can't. It's not a widespread thing.
Right.
Yeah. So so intermission comes. They talked me into it. So I went backstage. I had jeans shorts on. I didn't have any pants because it was the summer. So I reffed in jean shorts. They gave me a ref shirt that was like 3 sizes too small, and I reffed that tag match. George was in a tag match with Vertebreaker and a couple other guys that night. So I paid a ticket. I have the ticket stub to the show that I first reffed on. But that something from there just said, oh, I can really do this.
It's doable.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm good at it.
Right.
But I can actually try and do this. So then George helped me get booked for a couple more shows until there was a company, Chaotic Wrestling, that we used to go to all the time up there, and they had just opened a wrestling school right at this time period. So I did maybe 2 or 3 shows reffing where I wasn't trained yet, and then Chaotic opened, and I started training there. I went right there once it opened.
I was going to say, it sounded like you didn't. I was like, oh, wait, did you not even train?
Yeah, I trained then.
Yeah.
Once that school opened, I trained, and I signed up for everything. I didn't sign up just to be like the ref curriculum. I signed up to learn how to wrestle, only because I didn't want to wrestle. I didn't want to go out on a show and wrestle. I just wanted to learn how wrestlers thought. So I figured if I knew how a wrestler was going to think and how he was going to do something, I could react ahead of time and not be in the way and kind of anticipate what they were doing. So that's why I trained to wrestle.
And from the 27-year-old fan that you were, did that change your mind a lot?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people just, I don't want to rag on anyone, but you hear how some of the fans talk.
Yeah. Oh, I felt like the biggest shit for everything I said before. Like, and then I'm in sharing locker rooms with guys I used to pick, rag on, and it was I probably took, like, if I was getting bumped in a match, I probably took a harder hit from the guy, just kind of little receipt. Nobody tried to hurt me, but I think maybe I got a couple of receipts from the way I used to act when I was in the crowd. But
it really is a mind blow, like if you becoming a wrestler and getting trained, and then like having the experiences of just like how you thought it worked as a fan.
Yeah.
To how it really, really is.
Yeah,
Even if you're the smartest wrestling fan.
That first show, I remember coming back, and I was driving back with my friend Eric. He was asking me a million questions, and I had a million things to tell him. Like
you had all
this is what they talked about. This is what was on the wall for the lineup, and
right.
like everything that you had never been allowed to see backstage, I was getting to see on an independent level. I shared it right away to him. Like,
yeah.
This is what happened every moment I was back there.
Did Eric ever get into wrestling?
No, he got into. He helped help me book Chaotic Wrestling for a bit, but he never got in physically.
And then you were with Chaotic for a long time. Were you one of those bleed Chaotic?
Yeah.
Orange or whatever.
Yeah, I was all about Chaotic. I drank the Kool-Aid for sure.
Are they still around?
Yeah. The promotion is, and then the school transferred into Brian Fury's school. Brian Fury bought the school.
Gotcha.
So Chaotic School is still Brian's.
There was a clip going around of John Cena and Vince McMahon
at a Chaotic show. Yeah.
Were you?
I was there to help out, like, because I still knew, but I wasn't working for Chaotic at that time. But I was there when he showed up, and I had no idea. So I'm sitting in the second, like, behind where they're doing commentary, and Vince McMahon shows up, and I remember saying, and I think you might be able to hear it if you ever see the commentary clip. I don't know if they ever released it.
Yeah,
I think you can hear me say, "Holy shit, that's Vince McMahon." But I wasn't reffing for them at the time.
It's one of those things where, like, it's just like you wonder, like, when was the last time he saw or even was at an indie show?
Right.
Like, even like if you're at that show and you're just thinking that to yourself, and then he shows up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before then, and then you're like, I don't know, a little bit of me was like, oh yeah, I guess he is in wrestling, which is weird to say because I look at what we do as wrestling and what they do is just a whole nother world, right?
They like Vince says, but beyond the mat, we make movies.
Yeah,
like,
right.
They're a whole totally different ball game than what we do. We do wrestling. I get it. I agree with that.
And then for him to be in our world, which is like weird, because he didn't invent it, but like in the modern day he invented it, but he's just so far away from all of this.
Right.
It's like, to me, that'd be like, why is Tom Cruise here? It's the same thing of being like, why is Vince McMahon here? But Vince McMahon owns wrestling.
Right.
But to me, it's still just as wild.
Right.
And I don't that
It blew my mind when he was there.
did that do anything for those guys, or was that just?
Yeah, I mean, I think it got them buzz for sure. And John Cena's dad worked for them. Johnny Fabulous was.
Did you work with him?
A little bit, yeah. He was nice as hell. I enjoyed working with him.
What did he just because he wanted to get involved because the kid was involved?
Well, yeah, and I think he probably, I would guess, like kind of loved wrestling and kind of gave it to John when he was a kid. I mean, I don't know. But I assume
I bestow it to you.
Yeah, I was like, this is my love, son. Please have wrestling for the rest of your life and become the greatest thing ever. Yeah, but I think he just loved it. I really do. I don't think he's like, oh, my son's in it, I'm going to get into this. I think that was a way where people would answer his phone calls. But it was I think he loved wrestling.
Do your parents ever come to you? Are you both your parents still around?
Yeah. My parents. My dad lives. They live in Massachusetts. My mom lives in Indiana.
Indiana?
Yeah.
Oh.
They got divorced when I was 7, maybe.
Did she ever come say hi?
She had in Cincinnati one time.
Oh.
Yeah. She's.
Did they come to the wrestling?
Very rarely. My dad went to one very early show, and then when we were in Dallas for WrestleMania, the WrestleMania weekend, he came because my brother lives in Dallas. So my dad came. I brought my dad to Dallas with us so he could hang out with the grandkids and stuff, and then go to the wrestling show.
So I won't ask you this question, but I'm going to ask you this question through the eyes of your parents, and then you could talk about it a little bit on your own.
Okay.
But the idea that you travel the world as like a rep, like if you're like, hey, Dad, Mom, I'm doing this like reffing on these little shows in Boston, and then years later to be like, are they like, I can't believe you're going to Japan and to England.
I think they get excited. But whenever I talk to my mom or dad, the first thing they ask is where you're going next. Like, what's your next trip and where have you been? I think they like that aspect a lot. And they were always encouraging. Like they never said, stop watching wrestling, you're going to get hurt, or don't do this. They've always been supportive of what I did because I didn't grow up to be a bad person. I just did my thing. So they've always been supportive in everything I do, and I think they're excited for the stuff I'm seeing. That I mean, I get to see all this stuff and go to all these places on somebody else's dime, which is crazy for us. Like we get to do. If I ever,
well, it's even crazier as a referee, though.
Yeah, no, I mean. The opportunities I get through Ring of Honor, I never ever in a million years would think I would get them, because how many guys, for all the roster spots on a guy that can make a living in wrestling as a wrestler, like cut that down by like 1/30th, 1/40th of referees. Like, so to be a ref, to be able to go to these places and to actually make money doing this is insane. I remember we used to do the Dr. Tom Pritchard camps. He would come to Chaotic all the time, and he would sit down with me. He goes, look, like, we're not really hiring refs right now, and the amount of spots that I have to offer, if we were, aren't really there. So make sure you have a second job and a second career, because you're not going to make money in this probably in the long run. And he was right. Like, it would, for me to finally make a living, even just in Ring of Honor, took so long because the schedule wasn't there, the amount of money wasn't there.
Well, I was going to ask about paying your dues as a referee and getting into Ring of Honor and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I lucked out where. So I knew John Walters. I trained with John Walters, and John Walters had started getting booked here in Ring of Honor. So I started going to the shows with him, and that I'd go and do a dark match up in Rochester or at the Rexplex, and I lucked out where they were doing that pure title tournament, and John was working with Punk in the first round, and they had some weird like roll up type finish where if people go back and look at, like, it was like a O'Connor roll with a bridge, and then Punk would grab the legs, and so it's a 1-2 count, a quick slip over, and then a 1-2-3. So it was kind of weird roll up, and John trusted me to do it. So as I was doing all these pre-show matches, that tournament show came up. John went to Gabe and Punk and said, hey, look, I know Todd. I train with Todd. He can do this. So let him ref this match. And then from that night, I did that, and then I did another match. I think it was with AJ and maybe Matt Stryker Unibrow. And when I came through the curtain, I think after the second match I did, Gabe grabbed me. He says, "You're on everything from here on in." Like, it was just that. So I
which is also weird, was an appreciation of bookers for referees.
Yeah.
And maybe you could speak on that. Is a lot of times it's just like grab who's ever around.
Right.
Also, George just grabbing you from the crowd.
Right.
Like, that's the respect some referees get.
Yeah, and some people just don't put anything into the referee. I think they just don't understand. Like, guys, as I think the longer you do this, the more experience you have, you understand. You've had shitty refs. You know how much a shitty ref can hurt what you're doing.
Yeah.
And a good ref that can just go with the flow is, like, I don't know. You can't put a price on it, I don't think. So I think guys realize that. Gabe realized it. Punk started realizing it, because then from there, just about every Punk match in Ring of Honor I was doing, because I had earned trust from that opportunity.
Is he asking for you to do?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And then it turned into being able to do stuff for the world title matches for Joe, and getting just a higher spot on as a ref.
Right, but at the same time, I don't want to speak for your financials, but, like, you know, I wouldn't assume.
It wasn't making hardly anything.
Yeah, when I heard of, like, what the ECW refs got, you know, as a fan, and you probably too, like, I just assumed that they were probably making sweet money also.
Right.
You know, like, yeah. I just assume.
Yeah.
You just assume everybody's, like, rich because they're wrestlers, because they're cooler than you, right?
Right, but you have to break it down. Like, I mean, the Ring of Honor schedule, even up until now, mostly, has always been 40 dates a year. It's been right around there. So if
what is it now? More?
Maybe a little bit more, because we do TV tapings and pay-per-views, but it's not a lot. It's not a lot more, but there's, you know, more responsibilities to be able to get a paycheck that's going to pay the bills. But I think I lucked out where, okay, it sucks that I started when I was 27, but I lucked out because I established myself in the workforce and had a really good paying job at a software company. I had a 401k, I had health insurance, I had all this stuff. So wrestling could be, I don't give a shit what you pay me, as long as I'm being paid for it. I'm not going to do this for free, but
out of respect.
Yeah, right. I'm not just doing this because this isn't a hobby. Like, this means enough to me that I'm going to give everything I have to it, and I want you to pay me in return. But I can afford to go to get in my car. This is when I was still trying to get opportunities. I can get in my car and drive from Boston to Dayton and pay all my own expenses for a shitty payday, just because I have that gig at home that I can go back to and make a really good full-time living. So it's like I said, it sucks that I got in so late. I wish I didn't, but I think I needed to be established. If I was a kid now who was 18 and just throwing everything to try and be a full-time referee to make a full-time living, and you don't have any backup plan, and you're working at the local, you know, grocery store, I don't think you can survive off that.
Yeah, but you want to, like, tell them to go for it, though, right?
I won't tell people that. No, I won't. And that's just from experience. I won't tell somebody, you have to give it everything you have. Fuck everything else.
What if you become the best referee?
That's fine. But I have a really good spot. I'm the senior ref of Ring of Honor, the second biggest promotion in the country.
Just because you're older now.
Yeah, right. It's like, okay, his hair's, you know, it's thinning out a little bit. We'll make him the senior ref. But I could be good or bad, but I can still I'd still do side work, you know, coding HTML and websites. I can do side work and make extra money to help the income, again, because it's not we're not working 300 days a year, so I'm not making crazy money at Ring of Honor, but I have that thing, and I can always fall back on something. I truly think, and I actually fear for wrestlers that don't get those $1 million paydays, that eventually don't get to the place where they're making six figures consistently, that, okay, when they get beaten up and they, you know, you guys are abusing your bodies just because this is what we do. When you guys end this, you don't have a retirement plan. You don't have something to continue on. You don't have a course where it's like, okay, I'm done with wrestling. I have this degree that I can go use and at least get a full-time gig. A lot of these guys don't have degrees, and it's good. These are individual choices guys make. But if you're 45 years old and you're working for $25,000 a year because that's the best you can get, that's not going to, you're not going to be able to, have a consistent lifestyle, I don't think. And I fear for guys like that because they don't have retirement money. What happens when they're 65 years old and they have no income coming in and they can't go to work because they're older? It sucks. So I would never tell a guy.
Why are you staring at me?
I'm just right through you. I would never tell a guy, give everything to wrestling and forget about the rest of the world. I would never tell a guy that. That's just from my experience.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Sorry, that's a downer for anybody who wants to be a wrestler.
But I like the idea of, like, if you jump in, like, and you become the best, you have to be the best, and then no one will be better than you. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. But I also think that you learn lessons through wrestling that you could take through to other things in life.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that. But those are things that you can't just tell a guy in an interview, I don't think, hey, I learned this from wrestling. Like, you have to prove it. You have to show
That's
it.
why I think, like, by starting your own thing or doing your own thing, right? It wouldn't be working for somebody else, but it would be taking the life lessons that you have,
right, and
implementing them into something that you'd be able to do. But then again, you might not have that money. But if you're, depending on the situation. The other thing I was going to say is that, like, yeah, when you say these guys who don't get these 6-figure deals, like, we've been in Ring of Honor for so long, you've seen the guys go on to be millionaires, and you've also seen half the roster then who. Because Ring of Honor is a company where, like, it's basically like, well, you're the next step from becoming a millionaire.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And half of them do. Not half of them. Half the roster who's headlining. And the other half, they just kind of fizzle away.
Right.
And become those statistics.
Right.
Which I think is wild.
Yeah. But not everybody can be the best. It's just the George Carlin. I love George Carlin. George Carlin said, he talks about kids. He does a bit on kids. And he goes, oh, every parent loves their kid. They treat them like the greatest thing in the world. It's like, well, not every person and not every kid is smart and clever and are going to make the biggest thing out of themselves. There might be some CEOs out there, but then there's a whole bunch of people who have to bag groceries. Like, it's so just because you want to be the best and you give everything you can. Well, if 500 people did that to be the best referee, how many of those 500 could really be it? There's going to be a lot more sad stories than there are happy stories. And I'm sorry, again, I'm sorry to be a downer, and maybe because of the position I'm in, maybe I'm jaded or something.
Yeah.
But I feel you should give
you're the one who weeded through and became.
I lucked out, you know what I mean? And I think I'm good at it. Wow, I sound like a big asshole in this podcast.
Oh, I can say you are.
Yeah, no. So, but I think you need to give everything you can to this, but still have this stuff on the side.
And especially for those people who are ring announcers and referees, all those, like, odd wrestling jobs.
Yeah.
From, like even like, an example would be like bookers. Like, you can go from, like, being a booker or a promoter of a company, and then, like, I think of WWE, these guys that are writers, and then, like, a lot of these writers will then get fired, and then they'll be like, well, I'll just pick up a job with somebody else, and there isn't a job.
Right.
So then what do you do? Like, you were in the 6-figure job as a writer, and it's like there's not just writing jobs everywhere for pro wrestling.
Right. Now you got to find something else. Yeah. Maybe you can take, like you said, take those skills, go somewhere, and because you learned a lot in wrestling, but there's not a lot of backup gigs. There's not.
All right. What makes you what makes a good ref? Did we cover that?
No. I think my most important thing for me is to kind of give everything I can so the wrestlers can tell their story. So, like, I'm not dictating. I don't want to dictate what you guys are doing. It's not my job to say, okay, you have to go from here to here to here. It's you guys are the artists creating this story for the fans. I like to play off of what you're doing. So the most important thing for me is I don't listen to you guys discuss your match at all. I don't pay any attention. If you watch me backstage, I might be around. I might be hovering. But if you say, hey, come over here, we're going to talk, I'll look down at the ground and I won't pay any attention to what you're saying. I'll ask for the finish. I'll say, okay, so what's finish? And then I'll ask, is there anything else I need to know? And then I don't know anything else. So what I do is I want to play off of what happened in the ring. So if a guy is taking a move,
Genuine reaction.
I don't want to know shit. I think that's the most important thing for me to be as a ref is to react to the situation.
You don't have to think of the circumstances, but is there ever situations where like you're like, well, I just saved that match and like nobody knew, like you're the only one that knew?
No, not saving matches, but I can go on examples of when guys get legit injuries and helping out from there.
I want to say like something happens and then like you help piece it together.
I mean,
does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, there's been things
like on the fly.
Yeah, nothing's jumping out.
Yeah,
I can give you an example of where I fucked up in one of your matches.
Oh yeah, go on.
Yeah. So it was.
Does this haunt you forever? And you think?
Yeah,
you think I think about it?
Yeah, I hate this.
Do you think I think about this at all times?
Yeah, I absolutely do. And there's times in my life. I don't know if people think of this where there's a scene in your brain that you saw that is burned. So like when I was a kid, the space shuttle exploded. So I can see the space shuttle picture in my brain.
You saw it explode?
On TV when I was in school.
Gotcha.
But you know what I mean? I see that moment where it exploded. I see this moment where I fucked up, and I see you staring at me. So here's an example. So
I'm so excited. What is this?
So I think this is the tag match where you guys dropped the belts to the Havana Pitbulls.
Okay.
It might have been in Essington, Pennsylvania, in that little ballroom, and I think you came out to Super Freak because Rick James had just died.
This is where I got LASIK eye surgery.
Yes, and you had the gloves.
On?
Yeah, not gloves, goggles, right.
And Rick Reyes took the goggles off and punched me in the eye.
Yes. So forgive me if I don't have those details correct, but I think this is the situation. So somewhere in the match, and again, I don't know what's happening. I know the finish, and then whatever else you told me, but probably not anything. You probably just said, "Yeah, no, we'll just go with the flow." So at some point, there's maybe a submission, and I'm checking on the submission. And to break up the submission, you didn't just come in and, kick a guy and drop a boot. You came off, I think, with a splash off the top.
Okay.
And I didn't see you. So as you were coming down, I slid myself into position to check for the submission, and you came down on all of us. So I got frog splashed in the melee of you landing on either Ricky or Rocky. I don't know.
God.
And I got hit by you. So as I got hit, I'm rolling around like, who hit me? What just happened? I have no idea. And I turn and I see you kind of over in the corner, and you're staring at me. And this is the scene that's in my brain. The scene in my brain is you going, "Sell."
I do. As you were saying that, I'm thinking to myself, what would have happened? And I was thinking, going like, oh, he probably didn't sell, and I was telling him to sell.
Yeah, that's
exactly. I just splashed him.
But I see you.
Yeah.
From whatever year that was. Right. It's over 10 years ago.
2004, probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yelling across the ring to me to sell.
Yeah.
That is it. And I think here's Todd again. All right. He's the asshole who didn't, got in my way on a frog splash.
Right. But obviously, it's not how.
Right.
I've always loved your refereeing.
Thank you. Yes. I appreciate it. You guys actually said good things in a deleted clip for your first movie, you and Brian and Sal.
Oh, in the deleted scenes?
Yeah, you put up something, just talking about my refereeing. Mm-hmm. So I always appreciate it.
Of course, one of my favorites.
Thank you.
And I'm a wrestler who appreciates a good ref.
You certainly are.
That's why you come to mind.
Yep.
If anyone can find that GIF or clip, please throw that on the internet.
Yeah, please.
2000, the Second City Saints versus the Pitbulls. I'll have goggles on. You can also watch where Ricky Reyes uses his forearm to also cover me, move my protective eye goggles also, and just rub my eyes back and forth like that Regal pin.
Yeah, right.
While I just had LASIK eye surgery 2 weeks before.
So nice of him. So did you tell? You probably didn't tell him why, and he was probably like, "Okay, this is a target. I'm going to use it."
Yes. Yeah. Looking back, I probably didn't tell him.
Right.
But why else am I fucking wearing Horace Grant goggles?
Right.
To be a wrestler. Todd, where are you at on the internet?
I am at Sinclair Todd. So take my name and flip it around. That's on Twitter. I don't have.
You own Ring of Honor, right?
I wish I did.
Are you that Sinclair?
My favorite thing on that was Jade Chung, the great Jade Chung, saw me in Toronto one time and she's congratulations. I'm like, why? I go, oh, you bought the company.
Wow.
And
wait, for real though?
Yeah, she actually said that. And if I was smart at the time, I would have said I sure did.
Yes.
But I didn't. I explained it. No, it's just a coincidence. But I see, when every so often you vanity search, and I'll vanity search every so often on Twitter, and somebody'll say, yeah, F. Todd Sinclair. He's the one who owns that company. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. So, but nope, it's just a coincidence.
John Oliver did a whole piece on you.
Yeah.
Your company.
Thankfully, he just left my name out of it.
Yeah. Just on.
Yeah, Twitter. I have Facebook, but I'm capped on the friends, and I don't want to switch it to a public page. I'm just lazy.
You know, on Instagram?
Nope, I don't do it.
You
Instagram.
got a YouTube page?
I don't. No, I don't have any of that stuff.
You're not on Twitch. You play a lot of video games.
I have a sign in, but I just watch Twitch. I don't play that. I should actually.
You got a voyeur over here. Everybody.
I am a voyeur. I watch. I'm a fan of Summit 1G. I watch him all the time.
What is that?
He's a guy who plays this game called Battlegrounds.
PewDiePie?
I know that name. I've never watched him, but I only know that name because he does stuff that he shouldn't be doing on the internet or something.
Boy.
Yeah, but
he ruined wrestling advertising for everybody on YouTube.
Is he the one?
Yeah, because YouTube changed their advertising because of him.
I had no idea it was because of him.
Now I get flagged.
That's crappy.
Putting up a wrestling match.
That's rotten.
Yeah. Who's Sailor?
Summit 1G. He's popular, so people might know him out there. But he plays a game called Battlegrounds, and I like watching it because I can't play it myself because I play video games all the time, but first person video games give me motion sickness. So I get sick to my stomach playing anything that's first person, like a shooter.
Yeah.
So I'll watch him play Battlegrounds in first person mode, and he's entertaining. But I'll watch him as if I have side coding work to do on the computer, I'll have that in the background watching.
See, I would say I don't understand people watching people playing video games, but then I take a step back and I go, there's plenty of people who go, I don't understand people who listen to wrestling podcasts or watch wrestling or like wrestling.
Yeah, everybody has different likes, and I don't think I'd watch if he was playing games I play myself. I think I would rather just play them, but because I can't play this game, I think that's why I watch it.
Well, somebody told him to get a second job, and he said no. Yeah, I'm going to dedicate my life to playing this game.
He makes a killing too. I watch him and I'm like, why am I not doing this on Twitch? I should be doing it. I could be. Yeah.
Or that's a stage fright for you, people.
No, maybe not stage fright, but just lazy. I'm just lazy.
It all comes back.
I'm the laziest person you'll ever meet.
Okay, I'm going to take this microphone away from you. I'm sick of holding it for you.
Thank you for holding it the whole time.
You're welcome.
Your new nickname is Mike Stan. So
Mike.
Thank you very much.
First name Mike.
Yeah.
Thanks, bud.
Thanks, pal.
All right, kind of cool to hear inside the brain of referee Todd Sinclair and to hear his fun story and to know that I will be on the road with him a lot in the upcoming months here, and hopefully he'll be reffing a match of mine against Yano. Send those guys a tweet, would you? All right, before we get out of here, let's get into some plugs and
upcoming events.
All right, the best way that you can support ColtMerch.com, DigitalColt.com, Twitter and Instagram at Colt Cabana, Facebook /AOW Podcast, also /Colt Cabana, my storytelling podcast, Pro Wrestling Fringe. There are 3 brand new episodes up right now. And all the past archives of the show, ad-free, StitcherPremium.com /Colt. Use the code COLT, get a free month. The stories are so good. One's about Beauregard. Enjoy. ColtWrestling@gmail.com, my very public email. Maybe a promoter want to put me on your upcoming show or convention. I got a YouTube channel. I'm putting stuff up there. I also got a website, ColtCabana.com. I also got a P.O. box, and you can send me some fun stuff. Some guy randomly just sent me Heavyweights and Coming to America. Could have been a girl. They sent it to me in DVD form. I don't have a DVD player. If you want these, let me know. Upcoming this Saturday and Sunday, October 7th and 8th, Dublin and Belfast, Ireland, OTTWrestling.com. October 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, and 20th, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Columbus, Chicago, and Philly, ROHWrestling.com. Saturday, October 21st, Tulsa, Oklahoma, CompoundProWrestling.com. October 25th, 26th, and 27th, Los Angeles and Riverside, California, LuchaVavoom.com. October 28th and 29th, Gainesville, Florida. Saturday, I'm doing a live podcast. Sunday, I'm wrestling. This is all at thefestfl.com, free with a fest pass. or just pay at the door. Friday and Saturday, November 3rd and 4th, Berwyn and LaSalle, Illinois, AAWrestling.com. Friday, November 10th, San Francisco, California, CowPalace.com for APW. Friday, November 24th, Cleveland, Ohio, AIWrestling.com. Saturday, November 25th, Chicago, Illinois, AAWrestling.com. And I haven't gotten the details yet, but Marty and I are going to be doing our comedy show the Wednesday before Thanksgiving at the North Bar in Chicago. And I'm hoping to do another live podcast from Bric-a-Brac Records before the AAW show in Logan Square. I'll get back to you on that. All right. This has been the show for this week. Huge thank you to you guys at home for listening. I always appreciate that. Thanks to Todd Sinclair, Cape Guy Jeff and Stu Stone, Kid Russell, Matt Jenkins with music, Dane Miller and Creaky always helping with tech. Sponsors, we got sponsors, highspots.com, a POV service that is amazing. Watch those PWGs, watch those Kevin Steen shows, watch the $5 wrestling. They also have AMA knee pads, gear, wrestling masks, and more. OneHourTees.com, they help run pro wrestling. Tees.com, they help run pro wrestling. Crate.com, they are opening a store in Chicago. I'll be there that Monday after the ROH show. Come see me. Come hang out. Tweakedaudio.com/Colt earbuds that I use. Get over 30% off and free shipping just because you listen to this show. I really forgot to plug those Pro Wrestling Fringes. I hope you're on Howl, which has changed over to Stitcher Premium. I did a whole audio documentary on the Insane Clown Posse, which is available up there for free. And shout out to ICP for marching in Washington, by the way. You know, they asked me to speak at the march, but they asked me like a week before. I would have loved to have spoke in Washington on behalf of Juggalos and the Insane Clown Posse and America and our fucking right to speak. Freedom of speech. Freedom of who we are. And that's a shot at other people. That has to do with my podcast. Fuck off, everybody. Everybody that's a shithead can fuck off. You guys, you're cool. I like you. All right, this has been The Art of Wrestling. For Colt Cabana, I'm Colt Cabana. Thanks.
1, 2, this is Todd. Hi, my name is Fat Pants. I love wrestling and hockey, and Bobby Cruz is back here.